Welcome to the Abundance Effect, where we empower ambitious women with practical tools to live their most rich and fulfilling life in business and beyond. I'm your host, Larisa Makuch. Let's get started. Hello, beautiful, and welcome back to the Abundance Effect. Today, we're talking about something I see all the time with smart, really capable, high-achieving women that know better, who have read the books, who have done the therapy, done the coaching, done the masterminds, journaling, all kinds of affirmations out the wazoo, the whole personal growth buffet. And yet, they still keep repeating the same problem. It's a different year, different business, different relationship, different team member, different goal, but at the root of it all, there is a pattern. And if that feels a little bit, oh my goodness, if you've got butterflies in your tummy or you're not feeling so awesome, congratulations, this is for you, because today we're talking about something really important and I want you to turn your listening ears on. I'm talking about root cause and why smart women, really smart women, keep recreating the same problems. So today's for you if you've ever said, I am too smart to have this problem. I remember the first time a client said that to me, still can hear her voice. I'm too smart to have this problem, Larisa. Maybe you've said, I don't know why I keep doing this. I know better. I should have figured this out by now. Or I know what to do, but I just can't get myself to do it. This is not complicated. Maybe you've done so much work on yourself and you go, why is this still here? My personal favorite one, really convenient excuse is, I just need to get organized first. No, you don't. What you do need is to get to the root, because most people spend their entire lives treating symptoms, while this root cause is quietly running the show below. Symptoms are flashing. Root cause is way down below the radar. These symptoms, you feel them, you see them, you experience them, and they feel like reality, but there's something deeper going on. Today, I want to walk you through three things. First, what root cause actually is. Second, why smart women pretty much misdiagnose their own problems. And third, what you can begin doing today to notice the pattern that's underneath the pattern. Towards the end, I'm going to give you a really practical question that you can actually take away with you, not fluffy homework, not go drink lemon water and believe in yourself. Hydration is great, but this reflection process is something you can use to actually start seeing what you may have conveniently overlooked and avoided. I'm also going to share a little bit about the Ultimate Breakthrough Masterclass that we've got coming up, where I'm going to go deeper into the exact steps required to create lasting change, root level change. So details are going to be in the show notes, and we have got a lot to cover today. You might even want to grab yourself a notepad, because this is one episode that's full of meat and potatoes. So first, why do smart women get stuck? Here's what I want you to hear first. Being smart does not make you immune to unconscious patterns. We've got the conscious ones that we're fully aware of in our head, and then the unconscious ones that are ticking below the radar. We often call them the heart, right? Head, what you're aware of; heart, what you don't necessarily see, sense, identify immediately. In fact, sometimes being smart actually makes it way harder, because smart women are very good at explaining things. You can justify, you can analyze, you can intellectualize, you can overthink, you can create very, very sophisticated sounding excuses. And you don't say, I'm scared of being seen, but you might say, the market is just weird right now. You don't say, I don't feel worthy of receiving at that level. But you might say, I'm just not sure the timing is right. You're not going to say, I'm afraid that if I succeed, I'm going to become someone my family doesn't recognize and they'll reject me. What you might say is, I need to update my website first. And I love a good website, love all the logical reasons. I have spent many hours of my life fiddling with things that did not need to be fiddled with. But the website, not usually the problem. The spreadsheet, not usually the problem. The team member, not usually the problem. Calendar, not the problem. The real problem is the pattern underneath all of it. So let's define this. A presenting problem is something that you can easily name. Oh, I procrastinate. I'm overwhelmed. I'm inconsistent. I just don't make enough money. I keep attracting the wrong people. I'm tired. I don't know what I want. I keep starting and stopping. Oh my, look at all these first world problems. Okay, they're real. And I don't want to diminish them because when you have them and when they're around, they feel awful. But these are presenting problems. These are what show up on the surface. The root cause is a deeper, more internal pattern. This is something that's rooted in your belief system. It's got a lot of emotional charge, real gut-wrenching passion. It's connected to your identity. Maybe there's unresolved events or some kind of unconscious energy that just keeps generating that problem over and over and over again. If you think of a dandelion, the presenting problem is the weed that you see. It's the dandelion that you see above the ground. The root cause is the root system that's underground. And you don't see it, but you know if you don't pull it out entirely, it's going to stay. And so if you keep snipping the top of the weed, it's going to look better for a minute. You'll be like, ooh, I got a new fresh planner, got a new coach, got a new podcast, got a new morning routine, new lipstick, new business card. All lovely. But if that root is still there, the pattern is going to grow back. It might take a little longer than the last time, but if you genuinely want to create different change, you've got to do something that addresses root cause. Otherwise, this pattern comes back wearing a different outfit, sometimes a nicer outfit. If you're done with it, we need to start looking at the pattern underneath. So let's talk about and look at what this pattern underneath actually is. Procrastination may not be procrastination. You're like, but I put things off. Well, maybe you're afraid of being seen. Overwhelm may not actually be overwhelmed. You might feel overwhelmed, but you might actually be lacking boundaries and not know how to stand up for yourself and what you believe in. Chronic busyness, it may not actually be ambition. It might be avoidance. Being the responsible one, it might not be noble. It might be self-abandonment dressed up as service because I have to be responsible for everyone and everything. Perfectionism may not be a high standard. It actually isn't. It is terror of criticism. When you say, I don't know, you may not mean that you don't really know. You just don't know because knowing would actually require action. Knowing would actually require your attention. You'd have to face the real thing, and that's not always comfortable. This stings a bit. You're holding your breath. I want you to keep breathing in and out. And realize that this is exactly why surface level fixes don't hold. This is why 90% of the personal growth industry just doesn't work. Most of the solutions, they're up at this surface level. But if you keep solving the wrong problem, you're going to work really hard, and still stay stuck. You can be super disciplined. You might be really sincere. You might be deeply committed to your personal growth. But then if you're recreating the same pattern again and again, it's because you're trying to solve a root problem with a surface strategy. So congrats on attempting to solve it, but you need the right strategy to solve the right problem because it is exhausting to keep fighting with yourself. And this is why so many brilliant women, they start to think, oh, what's wrong with me? Nothing is wrong with you because something underneath is in fact running the show. And so this isn't just personal development flavor of the month. Research into psychology and neuroscience consistently shows that not everything that influences your behavior is conscious. A lot of your reactions, habits, emotional responses, decision-making patterns, they operate automatically. Things fall out of your mouth before you think. You reach for something before you really pay attention. What this means is you may think you're choosing freely in the moment, but you're often responding from old programming. It doesn't mean you're powerless. It just means you need to know what level the problem is actually operating on. We also know that emotionally significant experiences can actually shape how your brain organizes information and how it responds to future situations. That's why some moments become sticky, not because you're trying to be overly dramatic, but because your nervous system has flagged them as important and went, radar, alert, 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 gotta pay attention. And thank you to neuroplasticity. It has showed us that change is possible. Neuroplasticity has showed us that the brain can actually learn at any age. Patterns can be shifted. You can evolve your identity. And change rarely happens because you had just one insight and hope for the best. It actually happens when awareness is paired with action. This is why in my breakthrough work, I use a combination of results-based coaching, of neurolinguistic programming, of hypnotherapy, of timeline therapy, of core transformation, and other unconscious change modalities. I will do an episode in the future explaining what each of these is in more depth, but so we stay on track, that will not be today. But here's what really does matter most. The tool is never the point. The point is creating change at the level where the pattern lives. So we use the right tool for the right job, then we measure, then we task, we take action, and we build evidence. Because manifestation without action is just fantasy, and I love fantasy. But it's not going to get you to where you want to be. It's a piece of the pie, but it is not the only thing. Ultimately, action without inner alignment is force. So you could be doing, but if you're trying to stick a square peg in a round hole, it ain't going to work. You need both, but they have to work together in an aligned track. So what is a breakthrough? Let's just define breakthrough. A breakthrough is a sudden, dramatic, or important discovery or development. In my work, a breakthrough is an opportunity to move beyond a place way faster, so much more effectively, so much more permanently than you normally would under other circumstances. But I want to be clear, it's not just crying on a Zoom call. It is not just having an aha moment and thinking everything is fine. It is not just realizing that something is interesting about your childhood and then going back to the same life. A breakthrough actually creates a shift in how you see yourself. A breakthrough creates a shift in what you believe and how you respond and what you actually do. Where most people get it wrong is they want this emotional release, they want this insight, they want to feel good, they want the goosebumps, but they don't always want to do the reconditioning because it's work. It actually is work. It's a very different kind of work, but the reconditioning is where the gold is. The moment of change absolutely matters. It is a critical turning point. However, what you do after the change is what really locks it in. It reinforces everything because you're going to need new decisions. You're going to need new behaviors, new evidence, a new standard for how you're showing up, new structures, new patterns. Because the old pattern, it didn't form in a vacuum, and the new one isn't going to either. Now, one of the things I've heard again and again and again, and now I often say like a broken record, is you can't read the label from inside the bottle. And I think this is a really humbling phrase. I do this work for my clients. I'm trained in this work, and I'm very, very good at this work. As I keep moving forward in my journey, I arrive to new levels where new challenges show up in my life. And I still get support because I know my mind is clever. My unconscious mind isn't sitting there going, oh, Larisa, please expose this new fear today. Please expose this little protective strategy today. No, your unconscious mind has got a little clipboard. It's going, yep, here's a protective strategy. Here's an old belief. Don't go there. That might be dangerous. And it's going to want to keep you stuck. Often the thing you think that is the problem, it's in fact just the doorways. I want to give you some examples. One client came to me to work on some physical symptoms that were totally interfering with her ability to work and function the way she wanted to. She was running a company and she started getting debilitating migraines on a daily basis. Even after doing the typical protocols that the doctor suggested, these migraines persisted. And she was aware that at some level, something deeper was going on. She's like, okay, I'm finally admitting it and I'm avoiding something. So she asked me to work with her. Now, I want to be really clear. I am not a medical doctor. This is not medical advice. What we do is we treat the emotional root cause of these physical symptoms. So you still got to do the physical do. However, the energy that lives below the surface is often what leads to these challenges. And when you really learn how energy works, you learn that the body is actually part of the conversation. The body is part of an entire ecosystem. In this case, the surface problem looked like headaches and migraine and physical discomfort. But underneath that, there was overwhelm. There was a lack of fulfillment, relationship stress. There was a desire, a deep desire to rest, and a checking out pattern. So the symptom was real, but the symptoms, they're not the whole story. And so as we worked, we really discovered that a part of her had learned, when I'm sick, I'm allowed to rest. It's a very powerful unconscious strategy. So it's like, well, if I want to rest and I don't want to do this because it's too hard and my heart is hurting, of course I'm going to let myself get sick. She's not saying this consciously. This is what's going on below the surface. And so it's not a logical strategy. It's not a convenient strategy, but it is an unconscious strategy. And I see this all the time. I have had dozens of clients with this exact same kind of thing. If your nervous system believes that sickness is the only acceptable doorway to rest, guess what? Your body probably going to keep finding the door. This work actually became about releasing the emotional charge, about clearing old limitations, and rebuilding a new relationship with self, with others, with work, with structure, and agency. And so this is root cause work, because those headaches, they're not a problem anymore. And so instead of blaming the body, start to listen to it, because it's knocking. In this case, it was migraines, but I've seen this with almost any other physical symptom. When you are in pain physically, it says pay attention. You're not paying attention, but it's time to dig deeper. It's time to turn those listening ears on and wake up. When you deal with the emotional root cause of whatever's leading to this thing, you not only get change, but you get long-lasting change. You're not going to go back to the same problems because you've dealt with it below the surface. You've pulled the weed. Another client, she came in because her business results, they weren't landing. She had low attendance in her events, tech glitches, frustration with her team, a lot of communication issues, just so many things falling through the cracks. And on the surface, it looks like a marketing problem. It looks like a structural problem. It looks like a team problem. And yes, there were absolutely practical issues to address, lots of skills to build. However, as we worked, the deeper pattern emerged. And this is a long-standing struggle around identity. The belief was something like, I'm not capable. And the unconscious strategy was, if I stay stuck, I really don't have to try. Even though she was doing all the things on the surface, deep down, she was afraid of showing up in her life. Now, that might sound conflicting, and it is. That's why this work requires courage. It's not always going to be straightforward. It's not going to be like, oh, I found the problem. Check. Let's move on. Sometimes it's uncomfortable. You might cry. But then we wipe off the tears and we keep moving, because we're not here to pet the problem. We're not here to give it a cozy blanket. We are here to understand it, respect what it's attempting to do, but stop letting it run the company. Stop letting it run the show of your life. And for this client, we had tasking to learn the skills. It was not glamorous, but it was designed to teach her the skills she needed. It was things like creating a system, organizing materials, clarifying a project, communicating clearly, building evidence of capability. Because sometimes the most spiritual thing you can do is just make the damn plan. But when someone's mind deletes the obvious step, even after we've talked about it, even after it's written down, even after it was highlighted, that's not stupidity, that's a pattern. With this particular client, we talked about it, we wrote it down, I highlighted it, I handed it to her on a silver platter, the exact instructions. But her unconscious mind tried to do everything but and got overwhelmed. And it's kind of like if you've ever looked for the salt shaker when it's right in front of you. I've done that. I'm sure you've done something like that too. She was looking for the thing and missed the most obvious thing. So we had to go back and baby step at a time, do those basics so that she could lead to her next level of unconscious change. Part of it is doing the do. Part of it is letting the heart lead. I think sometimes when we do have these unconscious problems, they get very evolved. And we may not know what to do with it, but we get jumbled in our own minds, and you can't read a label from inside the bottle. And this is exactly why I go to other people and why clients come to me. Another pattern, a really common one I see, is with women in transition. I work with a lot of women that are actually moving into retirement or a new phase of life, maybe a career change, a business pivot, or some season where the old role no longer feels like it's going to fit. They come in saying, I lack direction, or I just don't know what I want, or I need something to give me purpose. My life is like, it's just become meh. It's not aligned. And it sounds like a goal setting problem. on the surface, but it's not just about choosing a new hobby. It's not just about finding a volunteer opportunity or making a cute weekly schedule. If that's that kind of problem, you do it, it's done, you don't need to see me. It's not a problem a week later. But for most people, there's something deeper going on. The real question is, who am I now that this old rule is gone? That's an identity question. A lot of people, we know ourselves in the old rule, but we don't know this new person that's forging forward in our lives. Who am I without the title, without the structure, right? When you're in a corporate environment, you have all these systems and structures and rules and things to follow. When you're an entrepreneur, you have to build all that, and not everyone has that skill set to do it. When you're retired, you might just have so much freedom, but it feels unsafe. Another question to ask is, who am I when achievement no longer feeds me? Maybe you've checked off all the boxes and it gets boring and you just don't have that level of fulfillment. Who are you when no one is handing you the next step or next assignment, and you have to be solely responsible to make the next decision? These aren't just planning problems. This is identity work. This is work that deserves depth. A recent client that I worked with who had transitioned into retirement, and she realized her life has become unfulfilled. Even the most simple seeming things were getting hard to do. And she wasn't satisfied with that. She wanted to keep commitments, but would struggle. Underneath that, she knew she had time, but it still didn't work. She also realized that she was terrified of losing friends and really deep connections that she had, because she had spent so much of her life trying to be what others needed and who others needed her to be, avoiding anything that might cause conflict in those relationships because she didn't want to lose friendships. She was always walking on eggshells, never really allowing herself to actually show up as her full self. This realization, it was hard to swallow. This kind of change work to overcome these problems, it doesn't happen overnight. But when you make these realizations and do the deeper change work, you actually create a springboard for a new story. And this new story can be freer. It's so much more truthful. It's not built around old limitations. And these changes, yeah, they can be hard. But aligned hard feels very, very different than empty hard. And I just want to say that again. When something is hard and difficult and aligned, there's a sense of satisfaction. When it's hard and it's empty and it's like, meh, there's not that satisfaction. And your soul is not connected. So we really want to focus on alignment. Quick fixes, they don't work. Like, the processes we do are relatively short in the grand scheme of things. A lot of times we like to pop pills and get a result. We like to do something easy and get a result. Great. Optimize, do things efficiently. But a lot of quick fixes, they're going to address the surface. You're going to address something like the mood, the calendar, the habit, the script, the tactic. And those things can be useful. And combined in an intelligent way, they can create really beautiful opportunities. I love a good tactic. I love good systems. I love good structure. But if there's some deeper program that is still running, the tactic's not going to hold. It absolutely can't. You can build the most beautiful calendar in the world, but if a part of you believes success is abandonment, a part of you believes success means rejection or criticism or losing love, you're going to find a way to mess with that calendar. You can set a revenue goal, but if a part of you believes that more money makes you unsafe, makes you selfish, you might get judged, or you have to be responsible for everyone if you have too much money, you're going to keep hitting invisible ceilings. You can say you want visibility, but if a part of you learned early that being seen gets you attacked or dismissed, mocked or punished, you're going to keep hiding while calling it a strategy. I'm still working on it. I'm still figuring it out. Here's the truth. And this is coming from a loving, heartfelt place. Your pattern's not random. It is protective. It was probably really useful at some point in your life. So you want to say thank you. You don't want to be upset by it. You don't need to be shameful of it. However, what protected you in one season is likely imprisoning you in this one. That's a writer downer. What protected me back then is imprisoning me right now. You don't want to shame the pattern, but you do want to get curious. You want to listen, turn those listening ears on. You want to understand it, comprehend what's happening, and then change it. There is a 3-part formula for lasting change. In my work, lasting change requires three things. And I'm going to do my best to get through this as quickly as possible because this is powerful, powerful stuff. But I will be talking more about this in the Breakthrough Masterclass. So if you want to learn this in more depth, if you want to study this and really see how it plays out, then get yourself registered for the Masterclass. It is free. There's a link below in the show notes of this episode. Step 1, let go. This means release any emotional charge, limiting decisions, old identity, attachments, incongruences, patterns that just don't serve you. You don't want to deny or bypass them. It's actually letting them go. I know this sounds simple, and in some ways it is. However, it's not always easy, especially if you're conditioned to hold on to these things and if you don't have the right tools. You can't build a new life while clutching the old story with both hands. At some point, you've got to release. You've got to release the old pain. You've got to release the old identity. You've got to release the old decision, that protection mechanism, the old meanings, this is just who I am. Because letting go doesn't mean pretending it didn't happen. It just means it ain't running your life anymore. Okay? Just don't let it run your life. Again, sounds simple, not always easy, but once you learn how to do it, it gets so much more straightforward. Step 2, take action. And this is where people get so annoyed, right? They want the breakthrough to do all the work. However, the breakthrough is the catalyst. The breakthrough is like you jump-starting the car, but you still need to act. It's called being part of your own process. You have to be responsible for your own change. You might need to do some tasking. Tasking means there's work to do, like homework. You need to do repetition. You need evidence. You need new behaviors to actually teach your nervous system, this is who you are now. Because you might not know. You might be acting differently than you ever have before. It's kind of like going to the gym. You can visualize biceps all you want, but if at some point you don't pick up the weight, they're not going to happen. You're not going to get them. Action builds evidence. Evidence builds belief. Belief reinforces identity. Identity changes behavior, and behavior changes results. And this is why in my work, we don't just have a lovely breakthrough moment and then float away on a cloud. We look for concrete evidence. We look for 3 to 5 points of measurable evidence that actually show the client they have, in fact, made a change. Because we tend to think change happens when we feel good. And the fact is, you're not always going to feel good. You're not always going to feel like you're dancing and prancing and celebrating. However, when you make deliberate and purposeful and really deep-rooted change, it has a profound effect on you and every aspect of your life, including your results. Step 3 is to focus on what you want. Your attention is so incredibly powerful because your evaluations, they become your suggestions to the unconscious mind. If you keep rehearsing the old problems, you're going to strengthen the old patterns. Keep practicing the old problems, you strengthen the old patterns. Practice the old problems, you strengthen the old patterns. And that doesn't mean you ignore reality. It just means you've got to notice the result, learn from it, and then deliberately point yourself towards a new model. So old model, why is this happening to me? New model. What results do I actually want? And who do I need to be to create it? Now, that question alone can change your entire day. But used consistently, it can change your life. You can't keep worshiping the wound. You've got to know where you're going. You've got to give your mind a new direction, and you've got to build identity around the result that you're choosing now, not the one that you keep recreating out of habit. So I'd like to be practical. I didn't want this episode to be just theory, so here is your practical exercise for today. Before you assume this only applies to other people, I want to make it really personal. Take one recurring problem in your life, not 15 or 20, one thing, something that keeps showing up. Something has probably been showing up most of your life. Maybe it's procrastination, money, your health, relationship conflict, people-pleasing, avoidance, overworking, not speaking up, perfectionism, not finishing what you start. Whatever it is, make sure it's important to you and write it at the top of a clean sheet of paper. The recurring pattern I'm ready to understand is. Identify it, write it out. And I'm saying write it out because if it's in your head, a lot of people are like, oh, I plan everything in my head. It ain't going to work. Okay. It's going to get all jumbled. Put it on paper. Get a pen, paper, put it down. Okay. The recurring pattern I'm ready to understand is, and I'm going to give you 5 questions. First question, where does this keep showing up? So list really specific situations, not vague. So where exactly does it show up in your business, in your marriage, in your parenting, in your physical body? How does it feel? In your money, in your patterns, in your calendar, in your schedule, in your team, in your creative projects, and your ability to discern in the decisions you make in your friendships? Get really specific. Don't just write one of those things. In that area, how does it show up? Okay. Be detailed. Second question. What do I blame this on? Okay. You're probably blaming it on something. Are you blaming this problem on time, money, other people, the market, your kids, your partner, your team, your hormones, the moon, Mercury retrograde? What is it? Now, sometimes those factors matter, but we're looking for your pattern. The thing you're blaming might be real, but it's probably not the root. And so 3, you want to look at the behavior you keep repeating. Do you avoid, overgive, get sick, scroll, snap, freeze, overwork, delay, control, disappear, start over, abandon projects? What do you actually do? Not what you intend to do, not what you wish you did, but what do you repeat? Fourth question, what might this pattern be trying to protect you from? Failure, rejection, visibility, responsibility, success? Sounds contradictory, but a lot of people are afraid of success. Disappointment, being judged, being seen, being alone, having to make a decision, having to change, being abandoned, having to tell the truth. Now, these patterns, they're protective and they may not be helpful. They may not be aligned. However, they're producing a result. They're not producing the result you want, but at some point, they did serve a purpose. You want to really look at what this pattern is trying to protect. It could be something that was logical for a 4 to 5-year-old, but today makes no sense. Question 5, what do I already know that I am pretending not to know? And this is a big one. What do I already know that I'm pretending not to know? I want you to let this one land. Do not rush it. Don't answer it from your head only. Let your body answer. Let your heart answer. Let this quiet part of you answer. Take a couple of breaths. Because often the answer, it's not missing. It's just inconvenient. And that inconvenient truth is the doorway to freedom. Okay? The most inconvenient truths you have are the doorway to freedom. Maybe you already know that the relationship needs a different level of honesty. Maybe you already know that your business model, it ain't aligned. You probably know that your body has been asking for a rest. It's been knocking and you haven't been listening. You probably know that certain team members aren't the right fit. Maybe you're hiding, putting your head in the sand. You might know the goal isn't yours. You're doing things for other people, but you don't even know what you want. You might know you need help. You might know the next step, but you're not taking it. And so action would require a new identity. But what are you pretending not to know? Because you know those things in your head, you know those things in your heart, but it would require you to be a different person to admit them and potentially follow through on them. And so that's why this question matters. What do I already know that I am pretending not to know? This question is not to shame you, but it's to free you. The moment you stop pretending, you reclaim your power. That power, it ain't force, but it is responsibility with truth. So if today's episode stirred something within you, I want you to pay attention because in July, I am holding the Ultimate Breakthrough Masterclass, where I'm going to pull back the curtain on how root cause change actually works. I am going to talk about how to identify what's really holding you back. We're going to look at why the problem you think is the problem usually isn't the whole problem. We're going to look at exactly how the unconscious mind creates and protects these patterns and why insight alone does not create lasting change. We're also going to look at what's required to create that real transformation, both emotionally, mentally, behaviorally, and neurologically. I will have slides. It will be amazing. We're going to be in a Zoom room together. This is not about temporary motivation. It's not about a cute little high where you feel inspired for 3 days and then go back to that same pattern. This is about real lasting change and change that can happen fast. The kind of change where that old pattern no longer has the same grip. The kind of change where you don't have to keep fighting yourself every single day. The kind where who you are on the inside finally starts matching the life and the business and relationships, the health, the money, the freedom that you say you want on the outside. So details about this masterclass are going to be in the show notes below. And if you already know this is speaking to you, and if you're like, yeah, masterclass sounds good, but I need to do this work. I don't want to just wait around for a masterclass. I don't want a DIY solution. I don't want to try to figure this out anymore. I want my own breakthrough experience, and I'm raising 2 hands, 2 feet in the air. Then I want you to schedule a call using the link in the show notes. And what we'll do is you and I will get on Zoom. We will talk about your situation, what's going on, what's really going on, what you've tried, where you feel stuck, and whether this breakthrough process actually makes sense for you. It is not for everyone. And I'm going to tell you straight, if it's a good fit, I'll tell you. If it's not a good fit, I'll tell you. If there's work that you need to do to make sure it becomes a good fit for you, I will tell you that too. And if there's something else that would be more suitable for where you are now, I will be brutally honest, because I get great results with clients, but they've got to be ready. And so this work is powerful, but not for everyone at every moment. You've got to be willing, you've got to be truthful, and you need to be coachable and need to really be ready to actually do the work. This breakthrough is not about handing your power to someone else, hoping they could fix you. It's really about reclaiming your power and clearing what's been in the way so that you can finally build the inner and outer evidence that you are no longer available for that same pattern. And I don't want you to wait until your life is perfectly organized, because that's part of the pattern. I'll do it when things calm down. I'll do it when I have more time. I'll do it when I feel ready. If that was the case, it would have worked by now. But sometimes the breakthrough comes because you decide you're not willing to keep carrying the same thing into every season. We talked about a lot today. We talked about why smart women keep recreating those same problems, not because they're broken or lazy or they haven't tried hard enough, but they're solving that surface level problem while the root is still intact. We defined presenting problem. We defined root cause, that deeper internal pattern, that belief, that emotional charge, that thing happening unconsciously under the surface. We talked about why your unconscious mind can run patterns outside of your awareness. We looked at why a breakthrough is not just an aha moment, but a real shift that's got to be reinforced through action, that's got to be reinforced through focus and evidence. And we ended with the question, the powerful question, what do I already know that I am pretending not to know? So this week, start noticing patterns. Notice what you blame. Notice what you avoid. Notice what you already know. And then lovingly and courageously ask, what's the root? Thank you for listening to this episode of The Abundance Effect. And if it has spoken to you, I want you to share it with a woman who's brilliant, capable, and is done carrying some of this invisible weight into every new season. Make sure to check the show notes for details about the upcoming Ultimate Breakthrough Masterclass. And if you know you're ready to go through this process on your own, or you're like, I need to learn more because I want to do this, I want to be a client of yours, reach out and book a call. Details are in the show notes. You do not need another year, another month, another week of managing that same pattern. You just need to change it at the root. So let's get going. I'll see you again next week for another episode of The Abundance Effect. Bye for now.
Summer gets everyone to let loose, including your routines, your focus, and sometimes even the dreams you said mattered. That's why we're running the Summer Reset series, masterclasses all summer long. Up first, the 1-hour weekly reset, then the ultimate breakthrough, 5-minute miracles, and rewire your morning, reinvent your life. There's something for everyone, so you can keep working on your goals while also enjoying your summer. Join us for one or join us for all. Details are in the show notes.